So he and I were walking on the E3 show floor, and we are absolutely tired. Our legs are hurting, but sitting down feels awesome. But we're here to talk about a game now, though. What is this game that we're talking about here today?
Yeah, so we're here to talk about F1 2018.
Okay, now what is F1 2018?
So F1 2018 is the official Formula One racing game for the 2018 season. All of the official drivers, all of the official circuits, all of the official teams.
Right, so I mean, you guys at Codemasters have been working on this series for a very long time now. This is probably your ninth game in the series so far. I mean, what does F1 mean to you? What does F1 mean to the fans? And what at Codemasters are you guys loving so much about this motorsport?
F1's the pinnacle in motorsport. You know, as a child, I grew up watching Formula One. I grew up watching, Ayrton Senna, Nigel Mansell. It's something that I've always been very passionate about. The team I work with are exactly the same. And as a company, Codemasters, we understand just how big a brand Formula One is, and we're really honoured to work with it. And that's why we always want to do such justice for such a great motorsport.
Awesome. And at F1 2018, you guys are clearly introducing some new features in this game. Something that I'm hearing rumblings that the career mode for this game is going to be freaking sweet. So what can you tell me about the career mode? What's new here? What's going on?
Yeah, there's so much to talk about, So if you look at F1 2017, anybody who played that game will have found that we put in a really rich, deep, immersive career. And this year we wanted to add so many elements to that really give the player more consideration than just the on-track experience. And as always, we want it to be driven by what we see in the sport of Formula One. And that's characters, it's drivers, it's personalities. So in the game this year, we've brought in a media character who will interview the drivers very much in the way that you're interviewing me now and we're discussing what goes on. So the character that the player gets across in the game will impact heavily on their career and the elements when they come to contract negotiations, which is another element we've included. The player now gets to actually negotiate for the level of contract they get with the team. So maybe I'm with a team that I like, but I'm not happy with the package I've got. So I can say, well, look, I'm worth more than you're offering me. I want this, I want this, I want this. And they might come back and say, well, no, that's not good enough. We expect better from you. So I might start trying to negotiate with another team. And that's what I can now task my agent to go and do. And all along, as I go through the sessions, as I get interviewed, I can be positively or negatively impacting on the negotiations, the motivations of the team, and it all plays into one package.
I mean, you're talking about motivation of the team. It sounds like there are different things for teams and they'll respond differently. I mean, what kind of goals do teams set for you, if any? I mean, I'm pretty sure they're all different in their unique ways.
Yeah, so there's the obvious things that are very performance-based goals that the player's got to try and hit. But then also, as I say about the character, we wanted a player to show what sort of person they are in the game, whether they exert sportsmanship or showmanship. Some teams want a driver that's got huge character, very effervescent, very bubbly, says what they think in the press. Other teams want a driver that maybe is a little more humble, a little bit more corporate, gives the right answers when they need to, and it depends. That will also impact on how you can influence your movement between teams or even with your own team.
So I mean, it sounds kind of like an RPG element of some sort. So I mean, is building relationships with media, for instance, an important part of the game, and how does that affect your career going forward?
Very much so. So you could even get to the point where you may choose not to speak to the media, in which case your agent will pull you up on that and suggest that you're not doing a good job of managing your public-facing persona. And then you'll get things like the departments that you do your research and development in the team with. They might become demotivated, and you'll find that parts take longer to be developed or cost more. So everything you do is about motivating the team, getting that positivity, and also representing the team you drive for.
Right. So I mean, this is a racing game. So you're talking about teams. You're talking about getting on the track with several other people all at once. I mean, you have to have a target. You have to have a rival of some sort, right? So I mean, can you form relationship rivalries in this game, and how does that work?
Yeah, very much so. So as in the real world of Formula One, your initial rival, as we always say, is your teammate. You're in the same machinery. You've got to try and beat that person. But this year, we wanted to give the player agency over who they think they can beat as well. So with reputation being such a key factor in how you perform, you can now select the rival that you want to race against. So it may be I challenge myself to beat a really quick driver in a really quick car, and I fail to do so. In which case I'll lose a little reputation. It's maybe expected that I won't beat them. But if I choose somebody who's of a good level, and I can get a good reputation boost. So it's up to the player to challenge themselves how difficult they want to make that rivalry.
Gotcha. So I mean, we're talking about the game here, but I feel like people want to check it out right now. So let's go into some gameplay. You want to introduce what we're going to see on the screen right now?
Yeah, so I think just to start off, just while we're still discussing, so I don't tax myself too heavily, we're going to go into a little bit of time trial and get to see a little bit of on-track action. So I think I'm going to go with a Ferrari, and I think I'm going to go with a race that I missed, unfortunately, this weekend while I was in transit. Let's go for some Canada.
All right, so I mean, we're looking at some pretty big changes here in F1, of course, as we were mentioned previously, but I mean, what's going on with the R&D? I mean, what's going on with the season stuff there? I mean, how can you command and control all that information?
Yes, I mean this is something that we really wanted to take from last year and run with. So last year we added in the RPG style skills tree in the game, so the player can develop multiple areas of the car. You know, that is now obviously heavily impacted on by your contract and what you've also got from the team. But what we wanted to do was, at the end of the season now, there's a possibility there might be a rules change, and if that happens, it may be an area that you've been developing gets knocked back and you lose some of that performance. But you could, you know, listen to your race engineer and actually, you know, safeguard some of those upgrades so that you don't lose the performance that you've had on your car. But it could be that other teams actually fail to protect their cars, and that you find that the series order in the second race, second season that you play, could be vastly different with teams that were previously on top down at the bottom. So you'll get, you know, a very different experience season upon season.
You know, so we're talking about physical changes in the cars as well now. And I mean, you know, what can you say about this game this time around? What has changed in terms of physics in F1 2018?
Yeah, so straight away we've you know, done a huge amount of work on the suspension again. So now it's running at 1,000 hertz. You'll see how it reacts to the curbs more realistically, the way that, you know, it rides them and bounces off them. You know, right there to geeky stuff like the bump stops. We've remodeled how the bump stop technology works. We've done work on the tyres once again, so it's not just the surface temperature that matters, it's the carcass temperature of the tyre. So over long races, you know, you need to be managing that. But of course, one of the biggest elements that we've added this year is the ERS management. So the player now gets to manage the energy recovery system while they're racing the car, you know, obviously on track. And there's 5 deployment modes for that. So there's, you know, as little as no deployment at all, where you're just harvesting energy, all the way up to a hot lap, which will actually use pretty much all of the battery life over the course of one lap.
I mean, just for people who are new to F1, I mean, what are we seeing here on screen? I mean, what are these bits and bobs here on the steering wheel? I mean, we see, you know, shift changes and the like. So what's going on here?
Yeah, so you can see on the steering wheel there something obviously which I've just spoken about, which was the energy recovery system. So you can see the battery life there, so the battery capacity, that's the large blue bar, so you can see how much energy I've got left. You can see on the white bar just above it to the left, that's how much I've got to deploy over the course of this lap. Again, adhering to the rules of the sport, all correctly modelled. And then the bar to the right of that in orange is actually showing how much I'm allowed to harvest this lap, again, adhering to the rules of Formula One.
Got it. I mean, this game is, right now, I mean, it looks absolutely gorgeous. I mean, it seems like, you know, F1 2016, F1 2017 look good in their own right, but it seems like you guys have really stepped up the visuals this time around. I mean, why does it look so good this time? Like, what have you guys done over there at Codemasters?
Yeah, so again, it's another evolution of the tech we've been working on now since F1 2015. So, you know, we really know what we're doing with it now. We really know where we want to take it. So this year, it's a lot of, well, yeah, relatively small tweaks that have made massive gains. So you'll just see here as I race around Canada, you know, the image looks very natural, it looks very realistic. And that's down to, you know, the fogging that we have in the environment. You'll also see now a more obvious heat haze that comes off the back of the car. You'll get the heat haze that bounces off the track surface, as well as the effect of the mirage effect on cameras from a distance. You know, you'll also see the dirt kick off from the tyres. You know, when you race off the racing line, there's that dirty section of the track. You know, you'll get the kick up from that now as well. We've also worked on the cloud technology in the sky. So you can see that the sky's now got more visual interest, and the way that the sun casts its rays, you know, is softer and more believable. So, you know, that time of day comes across really clearly to the player. And of course, probably the most obvious visual thing that some of the fans of the sport will notice here is that I'm racing around with the halo on, but I've actually disabled the central column to, you know, aid visibility. And that's something that I know a lot of people were concerned about. But as you can see, it actually works incredibly well.
Yeah, it's looking really good. I got to see some different weather effects earlier, and just seeing like you mentioned earlier, seeing the car spray rain from behind them, from behind the wheel. I mean, it really muddies up your field of view, for instance, and it makes it tougher to drive. It seems like. I mean, you know, I'm pretty sure having rain does affect the handling of the vehicle itself. I'm assuming.
So the adverse weather conditions, obviously, we have dynamic weather in the game. You know, that changes as you're playing over the course of the race. It's also very much tied to the location that you're at as well. So if you're at a location where it's likely to rain, there's more chance of that in the game. And that obviously impacts on the physics quite heavily. So, you know, if you're running with the slick tyre on the wet track, you obviously don't stand a chance. So you need to be on the right tyre for the right conditions. And, you know, talking about tyres in the sport this year, they've obviously added 2 new compounds as well, which we've added to the game. So you now have the Hyper Soft and the new, you know, the extra hard compound that they've also brought into the sport. You know, again, we're always striving to make sure that we're accurate to what's going on in the real sport. So I think I might try, and on the subject of weather, risking turning this into a wet time trial, do a few laps of that, try not to embarrass myself too much, and then we'll go and do a race and see how we get on with that as well.
Sounds good. Sounds good.
See how we get on.
So I mean, you know, F1 clearly you've been working on this for a while now. I mean, what is it? What is that you like best about F1 2018 this time around? What's your favorite addition to this year's make?
I think it really does have to be the way that you interact with the press. You know, it's not a really obvious, you know, I want to achieve this by saying this system. It's very much you're getting across your character as a person, as a driver. You know, in the game, you know, what I say is me. You know, it's not necessarily just a case of I want to manipulate a particular department. I want to manipulate somebody in the game. You know, it's very much the character of the driver. Right. You know, which is something we see more and more these days in the world of Formula One. You know, you see so much now on the TV, interviews with the drivers, and you can see, you know, the characteristics that they exert, the sort of driver that they want to be, the sort of character they have, and that's what we want the player to experience as well. You know, it's not just about the on track; it's also about how you actually behave as a person. It's been a complete package. You know, in the world of Formula One, it's not just about being the quickest. Right. It's also about, you know, being that you know, that figurehead for the team. You know, somebody who can motivate the team, somebody who can drive the team, somebody who can, you know, stand there in public and represent them.
I mean, this is a game about competition, of course. So with competition comes multiplayer.
Yeah.
Right. So I mean, can you talk more about the multiplayer here, and what are you guys trying out this year that's different from previous years, or what are you guys continuing on this time around?
So I mean, I guess first up for the multiplayer, I should say that, you know, we've just kicked off our beta. So the beta program is now in action. So that's, you know, really focused on us getting a lot of great information as I go sliding off the track here, and nobody's
recovering. It's good.
Beautiful corner cut.
I saw that, but it's okay.
Yeah, so the beta's now in action, and obviously we're going to get a large amount of our community giving us great feedback on that. And part of the area of focus is the multiplayer, because obviously it's a really expanding area for us in the game right now. What with the esports championship that we ran last year, the success we had with that, the fact that, you know, we're expanding upon that this year. We've already run the 4 qualifying rounds, so there's now the drivers have been selected ready to go into the pro draft. You know, we put a lot of time and investment into that. We've actually, you know, employed somebody to look after our esports championship, to set up a suite in the Southam studio where we can now stream all the video from. You know, so it's something that we're taking incredibly seriously. But in terms of what we've done in the game this year, we've actually added in what we're terming the super license. Now, the term super license is something that's, you know, used in the world of Formula One. It's what a Formula One driver must have to actually be able to, you know, race in the sport. So we've actually included what we term in the super license, and that rates the driver based on their skill and based on their driver etiquette on track. And then we'll be using that to match make in the ranked lobbies. So ranked lobbies will now be match made based on, you know, the player's skill and their super license criteria.
Got it. So what are we looking at right here, right now?
So now I'm now struggling around Canada in the pouring rain. And as you can see, again, those visual effects are absolutely stunning. You can see the drying line coming through on the track there as well.
Yeah, I see the droplets on screen. I mean, just looking at the reflections, the lighting effects this time around, I mean, look absolutely gorgeous here.
Yeah.
I mean, seeing the droplets off the car, I mean, it's a really gorgeous game. You guys have really overhauled it in a really nice way.
Yeah, I think it is absolutely tremendous, and it's such a large leap forward. And again, it's just the fact that, you know, we're getting better and better with the tech, strong with the tech. We're evolving the engine that we're using as well. And that's really cool. So I'm going to change to a different circuit, I think. I think we should go for, what shall I go for? No. And then once I've just done another few laps of this, I think it's about time we got into a race. I'll do something a bit, there we go, let's do some Mexico. That should look pretty cool.
All right, should look neat, yeah. You know, I mean, just looking at, you guys have a really big following, F1, worldwide acclaim. Uh-oh.
So this is still an early build. We're still a few months away from release.
We're making it work. We're making it work. We're bringing it right back, Jack. But
sorry,
right now,
on the day that August 24th is actually when we release, so we've still got quite a way to go. So I will set this up and get into a different race.
Yeah, I mean, but again, talking about F1, it's worldwide. It's beloved by so many people. I mean, what is it that you want fans to get out of this game going into it? I mean, you know, the excitement from F1 fans is pretty high right now. So I mean, where is it that you really want people to play, and what do you want them to get from it?
Yeah, I think as I've said to a few people this week, as you enter your career in this game, you go through that really wonderful career intro that we've got now that takes you into the paddock. You get introduced to the character who's going to interview you, you speak to your new agent. It's actually setting it up to make you feel like a Formula One driver. You're not just a character out there who's just trying to get the lap times in. You're more than that. You're actually a person.
Right.
And what you do impacts on exactly what happens in the game itself. So it's a much bigger picture. It's managing the team. It's managing the R&D. It's managing your reputation. It's managing your relationship with all the departments. And those are key elements that a Formula One driver has to be able to do, as well as be naturally incredibly quick.
Right. So again, I'm sure we have some F1 fans watching right now, and they want to know more about you, Lee. What is your favorite track in the game so far? Do you have a favorite right now?
Do you know what? I think Spa's been a long-time favourite of mine, and I think it probably still is. And I'm going to pick Spa now and do a little race and see how we get on. So I think I'll just leave it set like this for now. I think it's also one of those tracks that, it's a classic track in Formula One, but obviously this year we've got Hockenheim coming back as well, which is another famous Formula One circuit that a lot of people really love. It's a track that I've always really enjoyed, but obviously we've got a new circuit this year with Paul Ricard as well, which is something yet to be in the game before. It's a very different circuit, very visually, very striking. It's got large painted runoff areas in blue and red.
Is that the blue? Yeah. I was gonna say, yeah. I think I've seen it before. I've seen a screenshot of this behind the scenes, so it's looking absolutely gorgeous on our end. That's for sure.
Yeah, and each of those areas as well, they're actually of a different abrasion as well, so that they impact on how the car behaves when it goes off onto those areas. So that's something we also we model in the game.
I'm curious to know, because this game, it's very much true to the F1 track in real life. It stays true to everything by design. Have you had any F1 drivers try to hit you guys up to play this game at all?
So, only the other week we released some footage of Charles Leclerc driving the game at Monaco. And then we've seen footage recently of drivers actually playing our game on their laptops while on flights to the races. We take the game out to them, they come to us and play it. We've also had some great input this year from the guys at Formula One, which has allowed us to really develop the suspension technology. We understand the loadings that these cars are under. We understand the relationship between the aero, the ride height, the weight of the car. All those things all play into it. We've got a really strong understanding of that now.
Right. Who's your favorite driver right now?
I've been a Lewis fan for a while.
Has he had a chance to play this game yet?
I don't believe he has.
We need to hit him up and make sure he plays F1 2018. We got to get him on here. Got to send him a beta code. That's for sure.
I think we might find there's a few people get embarrassed by putting Lewis in there. Okay, so you can see straight away that I've just been absolutely owned by Fernando Alonso up the inside there, and we've done a huge amount of work on the AI this year. So straight away he's moved across there to block the line. So you'll see as you go into the corners, the AI will be very defensive.
So I'm actually hearing, I don't know if you guys can hear on stream right now, but I can hear some audio coming through the DualShock 4. Yeah. What's going on there?
Yeah, so your race engineer will actually talk to you through the speaker on the pad or over through the headphones. You can actually tell what, he can give you advice on what's going on in the race, your position, who you're racing with.
And just for those who don't know how long an F1 race can last, how long can these races go for?
Yeah, so the maximum time for a race is actually 2 hours.
Oh man!
So
that's
one
an endurance test.
Yeah, so I'm doing just a 5-lap race here. But when you do the full-length races, you have to take into account the tyre wear, the fuel usage, the changeable weather conditions, the way that the track evolves as well. The track rubbers in, you get more grip as the race goes on.
Then we're talking about length here, and we also talked about multiplayer earlier. How are those matches structured online currently? Yeah,
so basically, as I say, we've got the ranked play online,
right.
Which is where the session length and the session participation, is set already, and the player can actually vote to choose the tracks they want or the style of race they want. And then there's the unranked play where you can actually set it up and do whatever you want.
Okay.
But we also have, as we had last year, the savable championship, so you can actually go into that and create a championship with yourself and your friends. And I'm going off, and that's
you lost the wheel. What difficulty are you playing on right now exactly?
It's pretty easy, to be honest, but I'd make excuses, but nobody will believe me.
Now again, we've had a chance to play this down in our meeting rooms here at E3, and we've had some guys coming through who are really big into F1, and when they get into the seat, the first thing they want to do is tweak up the settings to the highest possible difficulty, but we also have beginner assist modes as well. So I'm guessing that anyone who wants to jump into F1 here also has a chance to do so.
Yeah, very much so.
Yeah.
So it's a game that scales beautifully. So obviously at the hardcore end of the scale, you can really make it a challenging experience. You know, you can play with all of the assists off, but then at the the introductory level, you can turn on the ABS, the traction control, you can turn on the automatic braking assist. The energy recovery system, as you can see there, I've got it on the screen. I'm trying not to drive off as I'm fiddling, and I can change those settings so I can charge it more, I can deploy more. And that's something that you can also switch to auto as well if you think that's a little bit too complex to try and understand what's going on
Like
there.
there's definitely a lot of multitasking here involved. It's like an actual F1 driver, right?
Yeah, there is.
Yeah, so you're seated right there, man. You're right at the helm. But yeah, I mean, speaking of having our meeting rooms earlier, we had a full setup with racing pods and everything. So I mean, that was pretty cool to see people jump into a driver's seat and just really get to grips on that wheel and really put themselves into the position of an actual F1 driver. It's pretty cool. I mean, how do you prefer to play the game yourself?
So I generally play at my desk during the day. It's usually on a pad. If I'm playing seriously, my
You're not playing in an actual F1 vehicle at work? Are you kidding me? You don't have one parked inside the office? How could you not?
I've got a cut-off F1 vehicle in my shed at home. But yeah, so no, I normally play with a pad at my desk, and then when I'm playing my career seriously or I'm playing online, I always get the wheel out and set that up.
Just absolutely wreck everyone online, I'm guessing.
Oh no, I'm not very good at this. Not anymore. There's a lot of people quicker than me. But as you can see there on the screen, I've got the multifunction display open, the element in the bottom right-hand corner. And you can see there, not only have I got the brake temperatures, you can see those moving around as I brake. You can see the tyre temperature, but you can now see the new carcass temperature as well. So that's obviously a bit lower than the external temperature of the tyre because I haven't really been pushing that hard, so I've not been pushing the temperatures up. And that's something that really, again, as we say, scales beautifully. Because in the short races, it doesn't play a massive amount. But, when you play the longer distances, it's far more important.
Right. So I'm seeing like all these colors green. I'm guessing that means everything. All systems are go right now.
Yeah.
Right. And that'll change over time, of course, especially with the said 2-hour-long races. That endurance test, not just for the player, but also your vehicle here, apparently. Yeah.
I mean, it's a Formula One car is a very fragile thing, so it's important that you look after it over those long distance races.
Right.
Okay, so we're in lap 2. I'm not doing very well here at all.
How are you doing right now? I can't see the place marker. Where are you at?
I'm actually in 20th, I think. No, I'm not. I'm 19th.
19th.
Just about making out from here.
All right, you're doing great, Lee. You're doing great.
Yeah, I think also, using Spa, which as I say is one of my favourite circuits, you can really see the visual uplift that we've made on the game this year. I think the fact that just the trees alone, the mist, the way it hangs in the trees, the way that look at the detail in the sky, you can see that that's far improved over last year's game.
Yeah, earlier, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you out, but earlier we were playing, because it absolutely looks gorgeous, but when the sun's setting and you can see the sun kind of beaming through the trees, and seeing the light just come off it, I mean, it looks really nice. Yeah.
And of course, anybody who's played the previous games, you'll have just noticed there as I was using the curb. We've done some changes to the curb technology as well this year. So as I'm riding these curbs, they're actually helping to bring the car onto the circuit. But obviously, if I go too far off, they're obviously going to pull me off the circuit and make life difficult for me. But you can see for the suspension tech and the curb tech that we've got in this year, how much more realistic the car behaves in those ways.
Well, I mean, like I said, I had a chance to play this earlier, and it just feels really tight, really good. Whether you're playing on the racing pod or whether on a gamepad, I mean, it just feels really good to play with this game.
I think one of the most obvious pieces of feedback that we've had so far this week has been that the car, the handles, how people believe that a Formula One car should handle it feels correct, it feels natural, it feels right.
So much so that we had someone earlier today who was playing. Right before he got into a crash, he actually flinched. Like he was deep immersed into this game, and then right before he crashed, he just kind of like pulled back. It was pretty wild.
So while I'm driving around here, I think I'll just talk a little bit more about what we've done with the press system in the game. So it won't be between every session, because obviously we don't want to overwhelm the player with interviews. But what we'll do is so if something's interesting happened, or there's something moving around in the career, or another driver might be performing particularly strongly, it's dominating the season, you'll get asked questions about these things. And the way in which you respond, as I say, will be judging whether you're seen as somebody who exerts showmanship or sportsmanship. But also you can motivate areas of your team. But it's also a case of, if you're not performing as a driver, you're not in a position to make those those smart remarks. You know, you should be making the slightly more humble ones maybe, and trying to motivate the team in that way. So, you know, we're really building a lot more around the actual sport as well, the sort of thing that, you know, you expect the drivers have to handle, you know, on a daily basis.
So, I mean, going back to the career really quick, when you are in the middle of an interview session and you're answering a series of questions, I mean, how do you know if you made the right decision, or what kind of decisions have affected you? Is there any indicator as to what path you're going on at that point?
Yeah, so as soon as you'll make your response, you know, we'll notify you as to if there's an area that it's impacted upon. So you'll see if you've impacted on your sportsmanship, showmanship rating. You'll see if you've motivated or demotivated, you know, an area of your team. So maybe, you know, the aero department weren't impressed with the comment, you know, and it's demotivated them. It may be that, you know, your team have been impressed with what you said and thought, yeah, that's a good thing you've said there. So it improves your relationship with the team, which comes into play then if you're looking at renegotiating for a better contract. Or it may be that you said something that actually impressed another team, in which case, you know, that could help you if you're looking to move there, but it could actually demotivate your current team.
So we're talking about demotivation here. Can you get kicked out of a team?
You can indeed.
Yeah.
You can indeed. And
how does that happen?
So I was going to say, yeah, so if you're going to get kicked out of a team, it becomes very clear when your agent takes you to one side and lets rip. You know, it's a very aggressive you're out scene. She's not impressed. You know, obviously she's your agent, and she wants her job in the world of Formula One just as much as you do. And as soon as you're in trouble, you know, she's in trouble as well.
All right, so it seems like we have a couple minutes here left. I mean, just for some closing comments here, I mean, what do you want, again, what do you want fans to get out of this game? What are you looking forward to most for them to experience here in F1 2018?
Yeah, so I want fans to, you know, not only experience the on-track side of things, as you can see here, you know, what a great racing game it is, but how it's a great racing game that takes on board so much of an amazing sport. You know, Formula One's just, it's fast and it's forever changing. And there's so many cool things that people get to see when they watch it on TV, and we want them to experience that in the game as well. And that's why, you know, we brought in the press, we brought in all of the, you know, making the changes for your contracts, the choosing the rivals, the changes to the season reset. You know, should the R&D change? It's empowering the player. It's giving the player full control over their destiny in the game. And that's why, you know, I think the personality of the player as well is also just as important as their behaviour on track and how they race. We're going off.
I mean, right now it just seems like the guys at Codemasters are unleashing some pretty awesome games. I mean, they just launched Onrush. Now you guys going into this one in August. I mean, you guys are doing fantastic work, and I'm sure that your fans are eager to get their hands on this in, what is it, 3 months, just about?
So we're out on August 24th.
Yeah.
On PlayStation 4,
right.
On PC, and on Xbox.
Right. All right, well, I think that's going to conclude it for us here at Square Enix Presents. You guys can watch some of the gameplay here while we close out, but that's basically it for us right now, right, Lee?
Yeah, that's great. I mean, thank you very much for watching the stream.
Hey everyone, thanks for tuning in to our live